Welcome to episode number 14. I'm your host, Sebastian Engstrom, and today Lalo and Gloria from Huaya Camp join us. They are based in Tulum, Mexico. They are a glamping resort that is focused on your well-being, elevating it from a spiritual perspective, physical and mental, even emotional. I did a Temescal, phenomenal. Some of the clearest times, you feel cleansed. So that is a Mexican, you can say, indigenous sauna and drumming. Incredible. As well as the organic food, as well as just, the entire experience in a beautiful setting. So we talk about how it all came about, Gloria's past and her story, as well as Lalo's past and his story. It's some pretty dark stuff, and it's amazing how they have evolved it, how we all can make our greatest pain our greatest treasure, and transform that and help that and bring that out as medicine in this world. Welcome, Gloria. Welcome, Lalo.
Thank you.
Incredible to have you here. And
thank you.
I'm in a different state after the Temescal from yesterday. It was something else. I've done a thing or two to challenge myself, and that was definitely one where I felt super confident going into it. And speak about being humbled and feeling unity like never before. And it's interesting, especially when we put up all walls, when we go out in society, and especially in such a beautiful place like Tulum. A lot of what has come up for me has been comparison, a lot of heavy ego, a lot of being on the beach. You see everyone in their bikinis, in their swimsuits, and it just becomes comparison. It's a sexual energy, but it also becomes of, especially from a masculine side, I am the alpha male, I'm better than you, and you. But when it really comes down to, hey, like, it's all better when we're all unified, when we're all just, hey, I see you and I love you, you're amazing just the way you are. Like, you go, brother, you go, sister. And instead of giving someone the mean face of thinking, well, I'm better than you. So that is also, every time we come back here, and what is here is a very special place. It's called Huaya Camp. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Very much.
It's a sanctuary, and that is really where I feel like I can let go of those things. I've been to a few different hotels, a few different places, and the energy is different. And I get very sucked into any energy really that I go into, and this is where I find a lot of peace. I find myself being calm. I find myself getting a true break. So you've created something very special here. And thank you for having done that. Then maybe you can go into how this came about. How did Huaya Camp come about in the very first place?
Absolutely. I'll be delighted. First of all, thank you very much, Sebastian, for allowing me to express me and Gloria and be here and share a little bit of what life has been for us in the past few years. Big movement, inner movement, bigger realization, personal realizations about who I am, about my journey, and about what may lie ahead in light of new decisions and a new path, a new journey. In a personal level, I was not in a very good place when I came to Tulum. I actually came looking for a way out, escape.
Yeah.
I was caught in a very long relationship, which my very own ideas kept me bonded to, thinking what I needed to do as opposed to what I should be doing for myself, and through that maybe be a better person for my family and for the people around me. And so I was in a place of despair and a dark moment in my life. I was living out of the country, and I couldn't get it going. I tried many different things, a career change, a geographical change, a way of life, and nothing really happened.
How did your career start? What
Uh,
did you do this?
well, I made a career in telecommunications for a long time. I was in Mexico City, doing through the very beginning of the digital revolution, if you would, in telecom. We went from telegraph and analog communications to the beginning of electronic communication, and soon thereafter the digital revolution. So we ended up doing the very beginning of fax and PBXs, switches, telephone switches, and it was obviously a very good career. The world embraced this new wave of technology and applications to everyday lives and businesses, and I was right on top of the wave. And we had a family business, and I grew up on that. I excelled. I loved it, and it was good, but it was fierce. It was very competitive. It was intense, and always there was a demand of performance, a demand of doing better, doing the right thing, getting done, getting the task done. And throughout my life, I always thought that was the only way that I could be. I thought that I would grow from that. That through that achievement in my professional life, the rest will fall down down to me, and well, that never happened. Needless to say, I gained success, relative success. I've always had a good life, but not a happy life, not a free life. I ended up falling down to victim to the disease of addiction. I've always had a proclivity to substance abuse, and that way of life, of a lot of pressure, did not help in any way. So I ended up doing heavy substance abuse, and well, that just made it way worse, as you could possibly imagine. It was very harsh. It was harsh for me and harsh for my family. I never stopped working. I didn't hit a rock bottom per se, as we see in others, but the suffering was there. The suffering I inflicted upon myself and others was there and was real. And the disease of addiction is very problematic. It's a social cancer, and I was deep in it. And so later in life, about 8 years ago, I found recovery through a 12-step program. I sought out the help for myself, because I basically wanted to die, because I felt that nothing was good enough. I wasn't able to stop using. I wasn't able to make people happy. I wasn't able to make myself happy. Everything was confusing and convoluted and very, very taxing on me. So already in recovery, already with certain amount of clean time, I decided to move out of the country with the whole family, because I wanted to give my children a better life. Not a better life, because we always had a good life, but a peak at something else, at something different, a change. So we ended up moving to the U.S., and I got there, and things just got worse for me, because it was worse in the sense that I was not using, and I was still miserable, and making people miserable around me, and it was very hard. It was again something really hard, and after a 3-year period in the U.S., I decided that I needed to do something, and that's when something magical started happening, because I started coming back to Mexico. Since a long time ago, about 14 years ago, I ended up buying this small property here in Tulum, downtown Tulum, thinking that eventually, so at one point, I would retire here. Because I've known Tulum since 30 years ago, and back in the day when we were doing telecommunications and we were doing rural telephony. This was a rural community back then, so we ended up connecting it with via radio waves to the grid, not to the network. So I started coming to see my property and trying to gather my marbles, if you would, trying to make sense of whatever was left, and trying to find purpose. And that's when it began. 4 years ago, I started coming every 2 months, and then every month, and then I didn't want to leave. And then at one point, it was clear to me that, well, the calling is there. Why are you forcing yourself to fit in to a structure and programming that it does not serve you? And clearly does not work for others either, because this is chaos. It's not good to be suffering and through that provoking suffering on the people you love. So I came here. I started a different project. I started a organic chicken farm out there in the jungle. Very sustainable, very, very beautiful concept. And it did take off. It was great, but it was not my calling. I thought for a little while that it was something that I could be doing, but no, it didn't just cut it for me. Then a friend of mine, also in recovery, showed me a beautiful path in exploration, in archaeology. And I've been the busy mind that I've always had. I thought, hey, we could make a business model out of this, because this is incredible. There are riches in the Yucatan, specifically in the Oriental Mayan coast, the Mexican Caribbean. All these beautiful sites and history and the Mayan culture, which is incredible. It's a treasure. It's a treasure of humanity. We have so many sites and such a long period of cultural buoyancy with that history that I was immersed for a good year of my life. And it was amazing. We were exploring out there. We were taking people, high-end visitors, customers, to very remote, secluded sites, and we would treat them, and they were very happy, and we would dive and explore the cenotes, and it was a magnificent time in my life. But I couldn't escape entirely my reality. My reality is that I still have. Back then, I had teenagers. Now they're all in college, but I need to support that responsibility, and that was just not a good way to go about it. So a neighbor of the property, this property that we had, offered to sell. And that made sense, because we would enlarge the property and we would connect it to the avenue and have dual entrances in the property, and it's such a beautiful space with fruit trees all over. That's why it's called Huaya, by the way. The Huaya, it's a fruit. It's a Caribbean fruit. It's a fruit of northern South America, central and southern Mexico, and the Caribbean islands. It's a tree called mamon in some other countries, or mamoncillo, and it's relative to the lychees. And it's very sweet and very delicious, and it grows beautifully here. But the karstic rock, it's very, very healthy for that plant, and it grows beautiful, and it's all over around us, and we get fruit 4 months a year. I mean, unbelievable amounts. It's very complicated to pick it up. Actually, it's very abundant, and so it only seemed reasonable to call the project Huaya Camp,
Sure.
because this is really what it is. It's a natural abundance of the place. So um, this was a nightmare. The land that we got, because these people used to work in engines and fixing diesel engines, and it was a ecological disaster. They did not respect a lot the land. So it took us 6 months to cleanse and remediate the property, but we did it with a clear commitment of something. We didn't have in mind that it was going to be a camp. We didn't have in mind that it was going to be a glamping. We were thinking maybe traditional construction, high density, making money. That drive that I still persisted in my life about more. Getting somewhere without purpose, without meaning, without really something besides just the sheer need to ownership, to declaring myself successful above anyone else, or above my own, or my predecessors. So in the meantime, while we were remediating the mess here, I started falling in love with the land, with the trees, with the birds, with nature, with the animals, with the people that would come. So I figured, okay, we're gonna need a little bit of time for permits and project and financing, so I better get something going financially, because I have responsibilities. So I said, I have another piece of land in Tulum nearby, in the jungle, in the tall jungle, in a commoner's land called Francisco May. So I figured, okay, I can do something here and then take it later to Francisco May while we build something of brick and mortar, no? And so I Googled, and I figured that there was these things called yurts. I've never been to one, never heard of one, just, never stepped into one. Just, it made sense, I said, well, if these societies in Mongolia and all over the far parts of the world, Afghanistan, now they're all over the place. Turkey, they're very popular in North America, in Europe. A lot of people are doing glamping with this, and even tiny homes, they live in yurts. I said, well, it makes sense, we can build it, and then we can take it somewhere else while the project develops, the original idea developed. Well, I found out who was doing that in Mexico, and I had an idea, I had a concept. I figured what we have a lot of here is it's the jungle, so there is a lot of natural materials pertaining to this part of the world. And I figured, okay, instead of buying rectified wood, like the traditional sourcing of the wood, we could use the natural sticks, because the wood that we use here are from this land. Most of it came from here, what we could collect from here, clearing the patches of jungle that we needed to do the foundations for the yurts, and whatever we couldn't, there is plenty of out there. And I said, that and it's very sustainable because the sticks are very young. We used only 3 to 5 year old trees, so they, and the jungle is beautiful. It recuperates, and we didn't use heavy wood at that, or at a minimum at least. So we had that source of materials, and then we had the people that had experience doing it. A young kid from Mexico City was doing temporary housing for people in Oaxaca, in the state of Oaxaca, in the Pacific, in the Mexican Pacific, that needed support because of the earthquakes out there wiped their homes. So they were doing yurts with natural materials and PVC tubing, and they were getting very creative at allowing these families to have shelter, temporary shelter. So I found out about him. I contacted him. I invited him over. He came. He saw it's doable. Yes, we can do it. So that's where it all began. Okay, I said, well, we don't need so many of them. We only need a few because this is going to be temporary, right? So, we're going to get a few going, and from there we move on. I started with 2 in mind. Then I realized that it was not cost efficient, because just infrastructure, your power, sanitary, hydraulics, all that did not make sense. So then I moved to 4. Then my brother, who has partnered with me in many, many, many times, chose to. He came by. He came by to visit, and he said, "I love the project. I love the concept. I love the idea. Why don't you let me in?" And it made sense. So I said, "Sure, let's make it a little bigger." So we moved to 8. And 2 little apartments that we have here as an Airbnb type of model, because this was the built already construction that the previous owners had, but it was in ruins. It was really, really bad. It was not nice, Like I said, they were not very respectful of the land.
To weave in, and I know there's plenty more to share.
Yes, sorry. Yes.
There is a very unique feel to the aesthetics that can't be depicted right now. It's just gorgeous, the entire property. Not to name any names, I was at another property around the corner, not the same. You can tell that the hurricane came through and was never cleaned up. So even beach properties, it's very much about beach properties, and anyone who has been to a resort or anything around, you could say any beach resort, any tropical destination, this feels like you are part of the jungle while you're still part of you're not having tarantulas crawl on you or scorpions crawl on the floor. There might be some. I haven't experienced any. I experienced that
there
in
are,
Peru.
believe me.
Exactly.
Okay, but maybe not as common here. You still get that civilized feel and very classy, a mystical feel, but it's an elegant feel to it that you've created here. And some of the other properties, you can tell that it's very aimed towards, all right, how do we make the most money? And it's a very different message that comes through here.
Yes.
It's a very different feel, and what you're speaking to too with the telecommunications, being in Silicon Valley and having spent the last 6 years there and having been in that career for 5 years in IT. I have a friend that I can think of specifically who's in his 50s that got really into, so they call it the 2000 bust or the bubble, the burst, and with the IT bubble. And he said that, yeah, what's happening right now in Silicon Valley was nothing like before when it came to the partying and amount of drugs and amount of how hard everyone went at it. Like, people never thought it was going to end or the money was never going to run out. Eventually everything just popped, and a lot of people were left in a very difficult situation. So I want to honor and commend you for being able to be here where you are today, and that created where you are, that created this, and following that curiosity or that sense of
vision.
Yeah, a vision. There's something that keeps driving you, and I commend you for listening to that.
Thank you.
Because that can be very difficult, and I think that's a message that a lot of people are facing and can choose to listen to now with COVID, where so many people's lives are getting uprooted, either by their jobs not being there, you being furloughed, if you have someone getting sick or even passing away. There's so much change. So how do you listen to that small, still voice inside? And I think your story depicts that in such a beautiful way. And the connection that I've had and how we've spoken, Gloria, I know you embody that truly. Even from the yoga class today, being on the sidelines, unfortunately, today, but listening to it and hearing you speak to how you speak to these yoga traditions are in this area, but also experiencing the Temescal with you. There is one thing to go into a Temescal, to be humble, to be the maestro, which was fantastic, by the way, who led the ceremony. But you have this, you've done it so many times, and still you have this fiery, like, all right, this is how we're gonna do it, and but still you trust, you instill trust right away, and you listen. Like, you're an incredible leader from that perspective. Still, you blend that in with a softer, more of a divine feminine of sorts.
Definitely more feminine.
Yes, and I know
Definitely.
Yes. So there's how did maybe weaving that in and spiraling that in with Lalo's story, and then we'll tie it in later on. How did you come about to be here at Huaya Camp today?
Wow, that's a good one.
It is indeed.
How did I come to Tulum and here at Huaya Camp? So, I actually first came to Tulum many years ago. I think it was 2013 maybe. And I had stayed at a resort not too far away. It was an all-inclusive, and I was with the boyfriend at the time. And at that point in time, I was going through a lot of transformations. I had come to the realization, I was working through my therapist, and we had a breakthrough with me being raped and me being abused. And it was during that period in time that we had decided to come to Tulum to kind of take a breather, but also it was also his birthday. And the magic of Tulum, of what Tulum is and does to you when it's here, is it shows you your true self, or it asks you, if you're willing to listen, what are you doing with your life and what is your purpose? At least that was the message that Tulum gave me. And I think that's what a lot of what Tulum does when you come here and you spend a good amount of time here. It really gets to the blueprint and really gets to the core of, like, what is your purpose? What is your mission? What are you really here to do? And so in that, 5-day span of, living that all-inclusive, which I really don't like. I'm not an all-inclusive girl at all. But either way, it gave me that, like, exposure to Tulum that I needed, right? That little bit of what the energy here has. And I was like, I need to come back here. But it was more so of, like, I need to come back to Mexico. Like, Mexico is where I need to be. Fast forward many years later, I'm still working through my my traumas, and still to this day I'm working daily with them. They come up in various different ways. I think it's one thing, I think as a woman, and I think this comes, what I think what comes to me in that sense is, like, 1 in every 5 women is raped, right? And I don't think that's something that we really talk about a lot. And
Did not know the number was that high.
It's really that high. And I think it's something that I really like to, not that I talk about, but I think that it should just be open.
Sure.
It should be out there. Because I think the more that we talk about it, the more awareness there is, and then there's no more shame or guilt or victimization around it. Because I think that's what happens, and that's what causes more trauma and more triggering and more hiding behind a face or a person or a substance or a compulsion, right? And so, for many years I was working through that trauma, right? And I was in a relationship that I was loveless. And I'll admit I entered that relationship knowing, that, and I just went with it because it felt safe. Because it was better to, like, feel too much because I was afraid they would violate me in some form of way because of that initial trauma that was there, than to really feel love, right? And so that led me 6 years in that whirlwind of 6 years of in that relationship of going back and forth, in that relationship of not truly loving, and being comfortable with just being with the comfortable. But then I just got to a point where I was like, what am I doing? Like, there's got to be more to this. There's got to be more to life. I can't just be comfortable, and I can't just be settling. And I know that there is a passion and there's a love in me that I need to share and I need to project out there, right? Which leads me to come back to Tulum, right? So it was my best friend's 40th birthday, and she's like, another all-inclusive resort. So we come back to the all-inclusive resort, which I hate. And I leave within 4 days. I can't take it anymore. So I asked my higher power, and I'm like, where do I need to be? Where's my next step? I'm lost right now. I'm in this place of not knowing what I want within myself, within my love, within my next career. I know I want to be in Mexico, but I don't know how to be here, right? And honestly, Huaya Camp was the first thing that popped up when I Googled, like when I went into booking was the first thing. And I saw it and I was like, oh my God, this is super cute. This is exactly what I was looking for, right? And then I was like, of course, as women are, as we are, I shouldn't say just women, but as I am, I should say, I'm keep on going back and forth through all of the ones. And then it kept on popping up. Yeah. And I was just like, okay, universe, I hear you. This is the one that I need to stay in. Yeah. So I immediately book. I end up emailing Lalo because I was actually in search of I really wanted to learn how to do the cacao ceremonies, right? So I came here in search of that, in search of like looking for like some cacao ceremonies. And of course, the universe and Tulum always has a bigger plan for you, right? Yeah. So I come and I immediately get, introduced to Lalo. And we just have this amazing connection, and we end up talking for hours and hours and hours. And, we just really connected that last year. And so we just stayed in contact. We had a quick, interaction, really. Sure. Good 72-hour connection. We kissed a little bit at the end, right? He's like, I don't know. Yeah.
Just,
Yeah, but it was just
a very brief but meaningful interaction.
Exactly.
That's how I would describe it.
Exactly. So, a year passes. I end up breaking up with my boyfriend at the time, and I'm like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Sure. And I was like, had already been planning on coming to Mexico, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna plan for 3 years, right? I'm gonna plan to move to Mexico in 3 years, and I was already making those plans, already looking at networks, and already contacted my networks here in Tulum. Was like, okay, I'm gonna come back to Tulum in February. I'm gonna work with the midwives and study under them, and because I'm also a doula, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna learn their methods and learn Mayan ancestry, which is my heart and soul. So I come back for that, and I also contacted Lalo again, and I said, hey, I'm gonna be here for a few weeks. Let's connect and let's hang out. I want to stay here at Huaya while I'm here. And of course, he picks me up from the airport, and literally the history is kind of, that's it, right? Now we're here today, 9 months later, with a wellness center, and we just continue to build and work every day to create what this is,
And in a path of personal growth,
Absolutely.
through others, allowing at least for me anyway, it's about today. It's not about accomplishment. It's about fulfillment. Mm-hmm. It's about who I am and what makes me feel. What makes me feel serene and buoyant and loved, and it's It definitely has to do with personal decisions, no doubt, unquestionably.
Yeah.
But it also goes through a deeper feeling in hearing your calling, your true nature. Who am I? Without denying it, without breaking the constraints of social concepts, that we're encrusted or set up upon me. I didn't know how to go about it. Now that I'm here, it makes a hell of a lot more sense.
Yeah.
It's just about who I am and what makes me happy and the people surrounding me. When I first got here, I've never heard about wellness or healing or anything. Never. I was a very religious person, but not a spiritual person, which is a big difference. Now I get it. And some really strange people started coming in. I would call them that because, they would talk about things that for me, they were meaningless, way far different from what I've known that far.
Sure.
And then I started speaking with them and interacting with them and getting acquainted with a new concept, a new way of being, of going about life. My inner self, the expansion of my life through my personal soul, through my heart. Gloria has been an incredible teacher in that journey. From the moment I'd met her, we connected because it's turned out to be a fascinating area in my life. Knowing about how to be a better human being. How to grow through helping others. Achieving that, creating a beautiful space where people can feel comfortable and where people can feel happy and letting go, at least for a few days, letting go of their burdens, and now we started talking about making it formal and helping people, and that's how the spiritual wellness idea came to be, because she said, well, there is many ways to go about it. We should formalize it. We should set a little piece of space where we can start building something exclusively for that purpose. It made sense from every angle, as a business model, as a service to our already happy guests, as to the community, because we do provide the yoga, the temazcal on a donation basis, because for me this is medicine.
Yeah.
And the medicine needs to be given,
Yeah.
and shared. So it's been a fascinating journey. I'm so happy that I'm here with Gloria, working together on this beautiful new project. The kids at the restaurant came and they had a beautiful idea on how to help people through nurturing them,
Through food.
and the food is amazing, and it's super natural and super healthy, and it's this concept called trophology that I didn't know, which is about mixing the right ingredients in a dish for your better benefit. Not overlapping protein with protein, but rather making it very balanced so you can get the best out of it. And
So you
they
get the
are
highest nutrition.
to get the highest possible nutrition benefit from it.
I can see that. I haven't heard of that concept, but now you got me truly intrigued.
Yes.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. Needless to say, their success from the get-go. They have been at it for 4 months now after the pandemic hit us, and we had an operation, an in-house operation, which collapsed with the coming of the pandemic. Then we started thinking, okay, we have to restart that project. We started talking to Líquido and Sólido, which are incredible young kids from San Luis Potosi, Mexico, both of them Mexicans. They're a couple, and they're super hard workers and super committed to their concept and to what they want, and they are very, very driven about it. And it's combining beautifully. They came up with this beautiful concept, marketing concept, if you would, of the healing collection, where Huaya Camp,
Espiritu
Líquido,
wellness, yeah.
and Espiritu Wellness serve as an umbrella for people coming here and healing themselves, or providing the proper environment, atmosphere, space for being at ease and being comfortable, and hopefully starting the journey or furthering the journey of healing,
Yeah.
So, in coming full circle with this, it's coming to Tulum. It's more. There's so many layers of spirituality, more so than I ever imagined.
Yes.
Any other place that I've been to, I've heard of so much more than I've actually seen. But feeling the different energies and also experiencing everything from dress codes to crystals to dream catchers to yoga.
The Tuluminatis.
Yeah, the Tuluminatis. Tuluminatis are.
Can't forget about them.
How would you describe the Tuluminatis?
Lalo.
Well,
We're all
it's
vulnerable
it's
on
the it's this it's this crowd that lives here or comes for a season here, and there is many local Tuluminatis or wannabe Tuluminatis, because the true Tuluminati comes from the outside, and they dress the part, and they eat the part,
They wear
and they
crowns
yoga
and-
the part, and they are barefooted, and they're levitating, and they do power plants, and they are in the spiritual journey for a season or for a week or for a short brief moment here, and then they go back home and get right back at it, choking each other for another $1 million. I mean, it's not to pass. Well, I guess I am passing judgment. Clearly, it's just something so foreign to us. Spirituality it's a way of life. It's not a vacation. It's not a decision. Now I get it. I didn't get it for a long time, but now I get it. I can be spiritual anywhere because it's mine. It's me. I can be in my center, with the creator, with the universe, whatever you want to believe and feel, and yourself. I don't need people, places, or things to dictate who I am.
And I think at the end of the day, just like we're all just trying to find ourselves. We're all just trying to grow, and we're all just trying to find
Yes,
different ways,
that's right.
different ways to heal. And I think a lot of the times they can get lost in these different ways of healing, and they try to tap them and layer them and layer them and layer them, and they want these outside sources to do the healing versus actually taking the time to go inwards and do the healing for on themselves. And I think that's where we're seeing that version of Tuluminati, I think that's what we're talking about, where they're looking for outside sources instead of looking on the inside and taking that time, because it does take time. It takes years. It's not just a week-long thing. It's not just a weekend thing. It like Lalo said, it's a lifetime of growth, and it's a lifetime of healing, and consistency. Yeah.
And I faced that too this week of not doing the rituals that I usually do, doing the gratitude, doing the affirmations, even for every meal, doing gratitude and really feeling and setting an intention and feeling deep gratitude for the animal that gave its life, or feeling gratitude for the farmers and the soil and everything that went into and absorbing the nutrition from that. And I think that's so powerful what you speak to. And I've gone into myself. We always want the quick fix. We always want, how do I get to my end destination with the least resistance in the quickest way? And sometimes you miss. I mean, it's that classic saying, it's not about the destination, it's the journey.
And I think that's where the Temazcal comes in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's why it's so important, or why it's so powerful,
Yeah.
right? When you enter into Mother Earth's womb, You're letting go of who you think you are, right? You're letting go of that ego self. You're letting go of the masks that you are, and you're entering into your true self, your egoless self, and you're coming into a community, and you're creating oneness, and you're creating likeness of like-minded, right?
Yep.
And for those that don't know what a temazcal is, it's a 5,000-year-old or more Mesoamerican tradition that goes from Alaska all the way down to Peru, correct? Right. And these traditions have been passed down over centuries, right? The temazcal is like a Native American sweat lodge. And so the importance of it is huge. You know, these Native Americans would go inside, as well as our indigenous, our Mayan indigenous and Aztec indigenous, would go inside of these sweat lodges to have political meetings, have births, have their medicine, their detoxification, their purifications. If you go to any Mayan temple, you will always find a temazcal right before the big temple. And why? Because if you're going to go see a king or a queen, you need to purify yourself before you are even seen, right? So they would always have these small little temazcals so that the person who's visiting from the outside detoxifies, cleanses themselves, almost like a sanitizing way, in a way, right? I mean,
I can relate to that.
yeah, because it not only cleanses you, you know, physically, but I mean, it cleanses all 8 auric fields. It's getting on all energy fields, on all spiritual fields, on all mental and physical, right? Mind, body.
It is. And spirit. Absolutely. It is. And it's a way of life, like I said, you know, we're very, very, very grateful and lucky, truly, to have our Temazcal guide, our Temazcalero, as we call him, Jaime. Jaime is an extraordinary character. He's been a great addition to our team. He's a true guide. He's an inspiring personality. You know, he predicts by example. You know, he leads by example. Yeah. He tells us all these beautiful manifestations of, you know, because he, for instance, he does not like the term shaman.
Which is when you know you're dealing with a good shaman.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't like the label. You know, he doesn't like that level of responsibility. He says, my journey is not there yet. I'm not there. Whatever that is, I'm not there yet. I'm here and I'm the messenger. And you are to heal yourself. And all I do is be
the conduit.
To that journey, you know. And he lives by it. And, you know, we go often during the beach to see the sunrise and play the drums and prayer and sing and you know, and connect with the Pachamama, you know, connect with the universe, connect with one another. And those exercises are beautiful, you know. And sometimes when he sees me struggling here with the burdens of everyday life, because that's what they are, they're just little stones in my journey. They're not troubles, they're just, you know, the little challenges that life presents. And he sees me and he says, well, don't get attached to them, just let them go, you know, they will too pass. So you know, it's a great addition to our team. He's the true thing, you know. He's legit. Yeah. And he again teaches us every day that he is by example. Yeah.
And I think that's what I was, you know, I think that what was really important for me in creating this Espiritu Wellness was to have that authenticity, to have that lineage. You know, I think we talked about that yesterday and how important that was for me, to keeping the cultures alive, keeping the lineages alive, and honoring them, truly honoring them. Yes. Because I think what happens, even with yoga, I see it all the time with yoga, where it's just been so distorted and it's turned into this workout, and you're not really learning the philosophy, you're not learning the history, you're not learning the Vedas, you're not learning the pranayama, you're just going in for a quick workout to get a sweat in, but it's not truly what yoga was meant to be. And so for me, creating this wellness with Lalo was that mission to create that and maintain those traditions alive and create those lineages and hold fast to those, like hold them, you know, so that we can nurture them and help them grow.
And that truly comes through. And I had there are ceremonies that you can go into, and I've been part of them too, where you feel, I've realized that in any line, and even in a spiritual community, you can talk, you can learn to talk, and then you can talk it, but there's not always substance behind it. and that really became so clear in the Temescal yesterday, when you spoke to the, how do you say the Temescalas?
Temescalero.
Temescalero, how he was pushing away, like, hey, I'm just a messenger, like I'm here to just, you are going to receive the healing, I'm just here to help facilitate whatever needs to happen. And when that happens, instead of, when you can even, I've sensed it too here with the Tuluminatis and every other spiritual people, they come here with their spiritual ego, like it comes. That's here, you're here to show something, and there's still a hierarchy within spiritual people as well.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Egoism
I've been exposed to that more so, and I think that is so incredibly special what you're creating here. That's not the feel. That's absolutely not the feel. And my wife and I were talking about that yesterday too, and how that really comes through, and how you can sense that, and how even on Instagram or on social media or different communities, there's a very much of a feel that you're trying to put out there, and often associated with that can be at times, even though there is a lot of spiritual healing and healing overall with plant medicine, but sometimes it gets used and portrayed in such a way that this is the cool thing to do and you need to do it in order to get to where you need to in the quickest way. But there's because it's uncomfortable in many other ways, and how do you really go within? Because the biggest thing is, one of my deeper realizations is, stop depending and asking questions on other people. Like, don't depend on other people to tell you what the answers are. You have the answers within yourself. You need to quiet, and like Rumi said, listen to the voice that doesn't use words. Be more
Stop using your brain and start using your heart.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
so
you.
much
Thank you, Sebastian.
Coming
it's been
and
wonderful.
Joining. I think, wow, even I've sensed this before, but hearing you put this into words and hearing your journeys makes it even more special. So thank you for what you bring to this world, and the work you're doing. It's showing for everyone here, and the healing you're doing for yourself is healing the people that come here to as guests. So I trust that we're here for a reason, and we took part of this healing for a reason. So thank you for sharing that healing.
On the contrary, thank you. Thank you so much for being here with us and sharing with us your beautiful family and your beautiful spirit and this wonderful way to communicate and tell others, a little bit of a different way of life, of not being afraid of taking decisions and actions and be living with the consequence, because they're good. They're mine. Yeah. And they will take me to where I should be going.
And truly trusting in your higher power, and whatever that may be for you, right? Like whether it's your own self-love, your it doesn't have to be a higher source. It could just trusting something and having faith in that, and just moving, even if it's just an inch, right? Or just for that moment, just for that second, moving forward, chipping off just a little bit at a time. Right? That's how you do it. It's not.
That's right.
It's not just like jump. I mean, yeah, you can totally jump, but I think there's a lot of little mini steps that you do, so that you do feel comfortable in jumping, right?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lalo and Gloria run a phenomenal resort retreat. I mean, just a place that you go and get rejuvenated, and I mean, it lifts you up. So if you want to connect with them, find the information in the show notes. to Huaya Camp, to Lalo and Gloria. And please, if you haven't done so, if you feel inclined, if you feel like this show helped you, please hit subscribe, like. This helps us spread the message to more people, as it is a healing message. And this is a good deed of the day. If you're on Apple, take 5 seconds, please. Scroll down, hit 5 stars, and that is amazing. So thank you for doing that. This helps us. And if you haven't checked out the CrossFit programs, Methodical CrossFit, Gymnastics CrossFit, find them at Safina.io or SafinaStrength.com for 15% off your first month. Safina, all caps, 15. And I'll be right there, guiding you, coaching you through these programs. Enjoy. Have an amazing day. Sending you much love.